Good evening. Welcome. I'm Neil Gooderman, Dean of the School of Social Service Administration here at the University of Chicago. It's my distinct pleasure and honor to welcome you to the hooding ceremony for the 2015 graduates of SSA. I'm delighted to see so many SSA graduates, family, friends, and loved ones gathered together to honor our graduates this evening. The hooding ceremony is one of several ceremonial and celebratory events that mark the completion of graduate studies, and it dates back to the earliest traditions of our first universities. The ceremony, whereby a member of SSA's faculty will place a hood over the graduating student, provides a tangible symbol of conferring upon and thereby passing on the learning and accomplishment from teacher to student and now graduate. The ceremony represents a transition moment from student to graduate and to newly minted professional social work colleague. Graduates, you might remember that when you most arrived a little while back into the Mies building at SSA's orientation, I pointed out that when you came into the building, you crossed an important threshold, entering a new phase of your professional development and beginning your training as a developing social work professional. Today's hooding ceremony and tomorrow's graduation ceremony represents another such threshold in your lives. The natural tendency is to think of graduation as an ending point, and understandably so, especially now that you've finished all your final assignments, yes? Good. I'm glad. Phew. Okay, each of you has completed what we call a terminal degree. Perhaps like all transitions, though, this moment is equally, or I'd like to say to you, more importantly, a beginning. Indeed, you're at another threshold, now about to embark upon what we hope and expect will become a fulfilling, enriching, and yes, challenging career. You have each courageously chosen a difficult path, the path that most don't care to, or perhaps even fear to tread, taking upon your shoulders many of our society's most complicated, difficult, and deep problems. While you have been with us at SSA, we have strived to help you develop the intellectual and professional frameworks and acumen that you'll need for a lifelong and successful career in social work. This has been a tall task, I realize, to take upon yourselves the lofty ideals of social justice and human compassion, which are at the core of the social work profession, and to learn how to advance such through your actions and with people in the here and now. In short, your time, the time that you've been with us, your colleagues at SSA have strived to pass on to you some of the higher order skills to equip you to carry out this difficult task of deep analysis and reflection, reliance on evidence and rigor, combined with a nimble and sensitive use of who you are, what you bring into the role of service to others. While you have been with us, we have strived to plant some professional seeds, those of professionalism, professional identity, knowledge, theory, skills, and values that we hope will enable you to flourish and effectively serve others in the field for years to come. Much of what we focused on in your learning is about knowledge and skill, but it's also about the ways and the processes of promoting change and growth. How are we engaging others in the work of change? How are we connecting with them and communicating with them? Are we understanding where they're at? And are we helping them to navigate the way forward? Are we responsive and oriented towards worthy goals, strengths, and aspirations, and not only problems? And are we open to uncertainty, to pain, to being questioned about our own assumptions, and even to sometimes muddling through together with those whom we serve to get to a better place? Don Schoen used to use the term reflective practitioner to highlight for us that part of our professionalism, our competency, and our effectiveness is not merely purveyed through the application of specialized knowledge to a real-world problem, much of what we think of as a profession, and indeed, of course, part of what we do at SSA. But Schoen emphasized that much of the professional practice is, in fact, messy. It's uncertain. It's not found in textbooks. It's difficult and complicated. The uniqueness, the complexity, the ambiguity, the stresses, and the difficulty of each moment, of each client, of each professional challenge, and that we learn and that we think as we're doing, not in a mechanistic way, like, to use a cooking metaphor, a recipe for treating depression or to try to get a client housed and so forth. Schoen emphasizes some of our work is inventive and is novel in the moment. So although we say that you've completed a terminal degree, and to use the cooking metaphor again, you're always still further baking. You're expanding, you're growing, and you're still going to be learning as you are tested in new and challenging situations. And that too is part of the professionalism that we hope that you'll carry forward. Your ongoing openness to reflective practice, and indeed self-reflective practice. What am I learning as I'm doing? I have to say that, as many of you know, recently at SSA, and perhaps most visibly this past Wednesday, we as a community had a chance to carry out some reflective, indeed self-reflective practice and growth by pointing out areas where SSA itself can develop and be better aligned to our highest aspirations as we promote justice and inclusion and respect for others, particularly for those who experience and see things in ways that might be different from our own. For those who were not privileged to be in the Mies lobby on Wednesday, we had a moment where we were able to hear the voices of some of our students about their experiences at SSA while they've been here with us. And I think it was a moment of real social work. That is, in the sense that people were supporting each other. They were engaging in difficult and, yes, even uncomfortable conversation, taking up difficult concerns in heartfelt ways, in ways that truly strive to propel, improve, repair, and elevate our work. And yes, we heard that SSA can be a better place. It certainly can, and indeed we can make it a better place. And also what I heard was that we have students, and now graduates, who are taking on and carrying forward social work with a passion and a commitment and a reflectiveness. While we've strived to help you to develop your professional acumen during the short time that you've been here, but I should say our work, all of our work, your colleagues, your faculty colleagues, those that you met in the field, it's all unfinished, and we're still baking. And we hope that you'll continue to reflect and to learn and expand as you go out into the field and take on even more difficult challenges. Today might mark the end of your learning at SSA, but it is also a beginning. It's a beginning to take up the work of social work and its challenges. We are enormously proud of your work, your commitments, and we're excited to be your enduring colleagues as you go forth. We know that your growth will continue and will be sustained and nurtured by the support of many others, and indeed many of those who will support you and whom you will support might be sitting right next to you or nearby you or behind you. And indeed, we want to acknowledge that this is not just an important threshold for each of you as an individual, but rather it's a shared threshold, one that when passed through together makes it more possible to carry forward the good and difficult work that we know you'll take on. You're also especially fortunate as you have the benefit of an inspiring and deeply committed alumni community of SSA who will be available to support you along the way and whom you'll now have the chance to support as well. We hope that indeed you'll stay engaged with us as an institution, as a community, to our Alumni Association as lifelong colleagues and learners, and as partners in the vital work that we do, and the many ways that SSA strives to better the lives of those whom we serve. We're delighted and honored this evening to pass on to you as graduates, through this hooding ceremony, the great traditions of the social work profession, to welcome you with us together as we strive to heal and repair the world. Thank you. As part of this evening's hooding ceremony, I'm now delighted to introduce you to Professor Matt Epperson, who is this year's winner of SSA's William Pollock Award for Excellence in Teaching, and who will provide this evening's remarks. The Pollock Award, given in honor of SSA Professor Emeritus Bill Pollock, is a student-nominated award and recognizes and honors faculty members for exemplary teaching to our master's students. Professor Epperson joined the SSA faculty in 2010 and teaches in our core curriculum, including our Foundation of Social Work Practice course, and he teaches a course that directly aligns with his scholarly interests, criminal justice, and the social work interface. In his scholarship, Professor Epperson takes up the important work of helping us chart the as yet uncharted territory of smart decarceration. That is, how we consider and plan for and support the reintegration of those individuals who have been involved in the criminal justice system. His work, in particular, looks at the mental health elements of those who are involved in the criminal justice system, and he is currently the principal investigator of a study funded by the National Institute of Justice, which is evaluating 3 programs that serve probationers with serious mental illnesses in Cook County. Although very early in his scholarly career, Matt's work is already garnering great attention, and he's planning to host a series of national conferences that take up questions of smart decarceration in the United States. Will you please join me in welcoming Professor Matt Epperson.
I have to first say that I had no idea that I would be standing 10 feet above you until I walked in, but thank you, Dean Guterman, and good evening, graduates, family members, friends, colleagues, and members of the SSA community. So I'm very honored to have this opportunity to speak with you on this great occasion of your graduation, your hooding. And although I'm very grateful to be receiving the William Pollock Award for Excellence in Teaching, I actually want to talk to you tonight about how I have been taught. Over the past 5 years here at SSA. Tonight I'm going to share, my students are kind of used to this. Okay, it'll go. Tonight I'm going to share a few lessons that I've learned and relearned from SSA students and how these lessons have made me a better social worker. So, Dean Guterman already mentioned when you first came into the SSA building. When I first came to SSA, I'll admit that it was a very challenging environment to adjust to. The place is so serious. Maybe it was SSA's distinguished reputation as one of the premier schools of social work. Maybe it was those hard plastic Mies van der Rohe chairs. But I found it very difficult to be my true self. Maybe some of you can relate. As I jumped into teaching 301, anybody remember 301? Okay. Direct social work practice. I found myself struggling to portray what I thought the ideal University of Chicago professor should be. You know, refined, solemn, technical, expert. I've heard fellow professors say that they sometimes feel like an imposter in their own classroom, and that was certainly the case for me. So the problem with this approach was that I was trying to teach my students how to be a social worker, how to embody social work values and ethics, how to challenge the status quo. But I resisted being vulnerable with my students and forming the kind of therapeutic relationship that I hoped they would build with their own clients. But then something changed in my third year. Sure, I had loosened up a little bit by then. I let my students know that it was okay to call me Matt. I tried to incorporate more of my own social work experience into my teaching, but it was my students' response to this that made the real difference. My students began to open up in class. They started sharing their struggles with forming a social work identity in challenging field placement settings. One of my students suffered a sudden death in her family, and I saw her fellow students form a community around her, and they included me in that community. Most importantly, my students began to ask more of me. They pushed me to discuss hard topics, my own identity as a social worker, the messiness of our profession, how to develop effective clinical skills while challenging oppressive systems. Although I probably failed to some degree at most of those tasks, I actually found myself enjoying teaching, which came as a little bit of a surprise to me. Then during our last class, after 20 weeks of being together, I was blindsided. For years, I had used that last class to talk about the process of termination with clients and the parallel process of our termination as a 301 class. And I shared with my students one of my most challenging termination experiences when I was working with children of firefighters who were killed on 9/11. It's a story that I had told before in previous years, but this year as I told it, emotions were quickly stirred inside of me, and I began to cry. And I started to feel that same kind of pain that I felt when I was terminating with those kids. So as is the case right now, my immediate response was panic. UFC professors do not cry in front of their classes, and they probably don't cry in the front of the Rockefeller Chapel. Milton Friedman probably never shed a tear in his life, let alone in a classroom. And every time I entered that SSA lobby, I felt the heavy stares of Sophonisba Breckenridge and Edith Abbott, and I was quite sure that they would not approve of this emotional display. But I couldn't compose myself in that moment, and I've never developed that skill like some people have of being able to talk while they're crying. I can't do that. So I just stood there silent, and I felt what I was feeling. Then I looked up and saw tears in the eyes of several of my students, and I was deeply moved. So in my social work career before coming into academia, I had experienced that level of connection with my clients, but never with an entire classroom of students. So a week later, I received a touching thank you card from my students with a note that they had made a donation in my name to a foundation named after a firefighter killed on 9/11. That note hangs in my office, and every time I see it, I'm reminded of the valuable lesson that my students re-taught me, a lesson that my clients had repeatedly taught me during my years of social work practice. That is, being your best as a social worker requires authenticity, and authenticity requires vulnerability. The second lesson SSA students have taught me over the years is related to a subject that I care deeply about, criminal justice reform. Early in my social work career, I worked for 6 years in a jail in Michigan as a social worker, and I call that experience my social work boot camp because it put me face to face with social injustices in a way that I had never experienced. You see, it's one thing to hear about the prevalence of mental illness in prisons and jails. It's quite another thing to see firsthand a woman with schizophrenia and active psychosis be restrained and then beaten because she's terrified of having her fingerprints taken. It's disheartening to read about the high percentage of African American men who are incarcerated, but it's heart-changing to look into the bullpens at a prison, large cages holding 60 to 80 men each, and to see only black and brown faces. So I came to SSA with this passion for conducting research with criminal justice affected populations. And what I found when I arrived here were students who were also passionate about expanding social work's role in affecting change within the criminal justice system. I've been lucky to teach a class, as Dean Gooderman mentioned, called Criminal Justice and Social Work Interface here at SSA. Where are my CJ students? Okay. I'm sorry, where were my 301 students too? I don't want to neglect you. Okay, all right. Each year in that class, my students impress me with their creative, smart, and socially just approaches to problem solving at these areas of interface, and I fully expect that some of those things will happen in your careers. And in recent years, SSA students have formed a student group named Justice Works. Any Justice Works folks out here? All right. These student leaders have been tireless in engaging their peers in education and advocacy about criminal justice issues and their relevance to social work. And I've seen them over the past few years graduate and move into positions of influence, effectively engaging with the criminal justice system. I've also had the honor of teaching students who have discussed with me their own experiences of incarceration. Told you I couldn't really talk and cry at the same time. To those of you who are graduating today, thank you. You're good social workers. You're good social workers. To those of you graduating today, I could not be more proud of your achievement because I know you've overcome so many obstacles to be sitting here today, both before coming to SSA and even in our own building. And I admire your dedication and perseverance more than you know. So the passion, see, this is passion. It's hard for me to talk about this without being passionate. The passion these students have for criminal justice reform is truly inspiring to me. It pushes me to think critically about my own scholarship and what impact it will have on affecting real and meaningful change in the criminal justice system. Many of us have been forced to confront the unjustness of criminal justice over this past year. It's been a difficult year, as we have seen far too many cases of needless police violence and killing of black men, boys, women, and girls, and the public outcry from communities in which these acts of violence are often daily occurrences. We also seem, and I believe we're at a national tipping point in mass incarceration, where there is actually a perfect storm of the financial, social, and political will to reduce the use of incarceration in jails and prisons. So there's so much need and opportunity for change in our criminal justice system, and I firmly believe it's social work's responsibility to be at the forefront of that movement. The energy, sharp minds, and enthusiasm of my students make me hopeful that social work will have an increasingly powerful role in criminal justice reform in the coming years. So thank you to my students for being a new part of my hopeful community. The final lesson from SSA students that I'll share has occurred recently, and it is in fact still occurring. SSA students are inspiring and challenging this institution to be a better school of social work. I don't think I ever fully appreciated the challenges of delivering comprehensive and meaningful social work education until I became a faculty member. It is a daunting task. It's not just a matter of teaching technical skills and analytic thinking. It's about socializing your students into the profession of social work, helping you to cultivate your identities as social workers. And I'm sure there's no school of social work that does this perfectly. And despite our distinguished history and our good intentions, we are certainly no exception. In recent months, many of you have joined together to collectively bring your experiences and concerns to our institutional attention. You are pointing out the ways in which SSA does not fully embody a commitment to our profession's core value of social justice. You are giving a strong voice to the pain that students have experienced as a result of structural oppression that manifests itself on multiple levels, even in a school of social work. And you're challenging us to examine ourselves as an institution in light of our professional mission. So what am I learning from you in this moment? First, I'm encouraged that a group of young social workers, young, wet behind the ears social workers, are committed to come together to do the uncomfortable thing and to remind a seasoned social worker like me what our profession is truly about. You are teaching me that we are indeed a community at SSA, and that we collectively share a responsibility to build that community into everything that it can be. And your actions make me hopeful, not just for the advancement of SSA as a learning community, and this is the beginning of a process, right? But I'm hoping that you will be powerful agents of change in your social work career, and I'm confident of that. So I share these lessons that I've learned with you, not to just tell you all how great you are, but I want to turn those things back around and challenge you as you prepare to launch from SSA. Being a change-oriented social worker is not an easy task, and you will face many challenges as you strive for social justice in your own work. It is not the easiest path. But regardless of where the path takes you, I challenge you to be authentic in your social work. Engage both your professional head and your heart as you continue to develop your identity as a social worker. Be willing to be vulnerable in that process. Pursue the work that you're passionate about. It may not always be the best paying, or where you get the most respect, or where your family thinks you should be. Stay connected to people that will keep you hopeful in the face of adversity. And even though you're graduating, you will remain a part of the SSA community, whether you like it or not. So continue to hold this community and yourselves as individuals to the highest standards of our profession. As newly minted social workers, you have a professional obligation to use the privilege and voice that you have to inspire change. You owe it to yourselves, to the individuals, families, and communities who will be impacted by your work, and to our profession to be the very best social worker that you can be. Lastly, I want to express my heartfelt appreciation to the students who nominated me for the William Pollock Award. It is truly a humbling experience to be recognized in this way by my own students, and receiving this award inspires me to work all the harder to truly deserve it. So again, congratulations to our graduates, and I wish you nothing but the best in your social work careers. Thank you.
You can see why this award is so well deserved. And so it's my deep honor to be able to formally present Professor Matt Epperson with the Bill Pollock Award for Excellence in Teaching at SSA. Matt was so humble, he wanted to walk down and not receive his award. But we have one more award, that's a faculty award, and it's a great honor to present the second of two awards for 2015. This is the Award for Excellence in Doctoral Mentoring at SSA, which recognizes and honors faculty members who have provided exemplary mentoring to SSA doctoral students. Like the William Pollock Award, this is a student-nominated award as well, and recognizes one faculty member's contributions to student scholarly and professional development, as well as to enhancing their overall experience in the doctoral program. I'm delighted that this year's award winner for the Excellence in Doctoral Mentoring, Student Mentoring at SSA is Professor Alida Boris. Alida? Please join me in congratulating Alida and Matt for their well-deserved awards. Now I invite SSA's Dean of Students, Celia Bergman, to the podium. Dean Bergman, along with SSA Alumni Association President Jacob Dancer, will present this year's Student Honor Awards. Dean Bergman.
Thank you, Dean Guterman. At this time, it gives me great honor to present to you two students who are the recipients of our Distinguished Student Awards for 2014-15. SSA faculty and field instructors were invited to submit nominations for each award, and a committee of administrators and faculty made the final selections. Each student will receive a certificate and a $500 prize. At this time, I would like to ask SSA Alumni Association President Jacob Dancer to assist with presenting these awards. Jacob will also be hooding each award recipient. The first award is the Sonia G. Bears Honor Award, given to a graduating master's student for outstanding work with special consideration given to promise of future achievement in the field of services to older adults. Marvin Burrs, an SSA graduate, initiated this award in 1977 in honor of his mother. This year's award goes to Kelly Wright. Kelly, will you please join Jacob Dancer on the stage? Kelly was an honors student at Loyola University Chicago, where she received her Bachelor of Social Work in 2012, as well as a Bachelor of Arts in Sociology. She entered our accelerated program in spring 2014 and has been a vital member of our community during her time at SSA. At her field placement with the Federal Administration on Aging, Kelly has led a project to review the Older Americans Act and other state aging services data, develop charts and narrative explanations, and present findings and recommendations to leaders in 10 states. Her work has dispelled myths and offered insight to federal and state leaders regarding aging services expenditures and priorities. Kelly, congratulations on receiving the Sonia Burrs Honor Award. The next award is the Solomon O. Lichter Memorial Prize, given to graduating master's degree students for scholarship and professional leadership. The family, friends, and colleagues of Solomon O. Lichter, who received his master's degree from SSA in 1941, established this memorial. Mr. Lichter worked for the Jewish Family and Community Services and later served as Executive Director of Scholarship and Guidance. He was known for his creative and innovative approach to social work practice and his love for teaching. This year's Solomon O. Lichter Memorial Prize goes to Grant Thomas Boer. Grant, will you please join Jacob on the stage? Grant graduated from the University of Illinois at Chicago with a Bachelor of Arts in Sociology in 2013. In addition to his degree in sociology, Grant also has training in recording engineering, as well as film and photography. Grant entered SSA after working as an instructor for Enlace Chicago Community Schools after-school programming, as well as serving as a fellow at the UIC Social Justice and Human Rights Institute. While at SSA, Grant has been involved in several independent studies with Professor Alita Boris, which were designed and focused on his work with Story Squad, a storytelling project that he created for the YMCA's Youth Safety and Violence Prevention Program. This program serves African American youth and incorporates storytelling as a platform to address community violence and empower youth to creatively and critically analyze their personal lives vis-a-vis larger social and political systems. In his work, Grant has demonstrated that he is an exemplary practitioner, scholar, and leader, which makes him a perfect fit for the Solomon O. Lichter Memorial Prize. Congratulations, Grant. I'd now like to introduce Ms. Mary DeBose, Assistant Director of Admissions at SSA, who will commence with the reading of the names of this year's spring graduates in our master's program. SSA faculty, whose names are listed in your program, will hood the graduates. Mary?
Dean Guterman, members of the SSA staff and faculty, and honored guests. It is my distinct privilege and honor to present to you the candidates for the master's degree from the University of Chicago School of Social Service Administration, the class of 2015. As we proceed with this evening's hooding ceremony, we do request, as difficult as this can be, that we withhold our applause and recognition until all of our students have been hooded. Thank you. Isaac Penhas Katz. Jane On. Emily Rebecca Alexander. Rodney Allen. Allison Allstott. Britt Alvey. Lizzie Appleby. Michelle Ann Ogden. Anna Bartozek. Stephen J. Bass. Michelle Ann Behrens. Allison Kate Bengfort. Martin William Bentley. Sharon Marie Berlin. Teresa Marie Bernard. Robin Besana. Rashida Naomi Black. Rebecca Elizabeth Blake. Eduardo Bocanegra. Kelsey Elizabeth Bogue. Sarah Rita Bolick. Janae Ebony Banso. Kelly Lynn Bozak. Nicole Dorothy Bradley. Robin Danielle Brandt. April Lynn Brewer. Nikki Briggs. Rachel Leah Brody. Lauren Elise Bronzo. Kirsten Saxton Brown. Sarah Scarborough Bryce. Lisa Butler. Hannah Ruth Campbell Gustafson. Mary Elizabeth Carlton. Tracy Sykes Chaplin. Yu Win Chun. Grace Do-un Choi. Callie Ann Clark. Melissa Elsa Clark. Kayla Ann Colson. Lindsay Elizabeth Cremond. Caitlin Rose Cubbon. Jolynn Cunningham. Devin Marie Del Deegan. Da Shi Shua. Ashley June DeBilzen. Megan Delaney. Teresa Lynette De Leon. Megan Elizabeth Zoa DePompo. Elizabeth Rose DeWan. Fanny Diego Alvarez. Anna Claire Dixon. Addison Christy Damsky. Annie Zine Rebecca Dunbar. Elizabeth Ann Dunn. Leah Bryn Eggers. Carolina Espinoza. Annalise Everett. Catherine Ann Faulkner. William Ferguson. Nicole Marie Flores. Jonathan David Foyles. Sophie Lauren Foster. Max David Frankel. Caroline Julie Freitag. Caitlin Holloway Fuller. Courtney Elizabeth Gazzaro. Orly Rachel Ginsburg. Sarah Gonzalez. Megan Jean Brody Walters. Livier Alejandra Gutierrez Ruvalcaba. Audrey Gralneck Haberman. Catherine Whitney Halstead. Margaret Ann Hans. Amy Lynn Harmon. Sonia Eileen Heidenreich. Derry Patricia Henrik. Diana Hernandez. Amy Lynn Harmon. Melissa Lindsay Horn. Brooks Ann Hornsby. Molly Ann Henricks. It was special, Marley. Okay. Now, Melissa Lindsay Horn, Brooks Ann Hornsby. So I'm now on the last page then. Thank you for your patience. Okay. Xiao Sin Huang. Jana Lynn Hunsley. Mihaela Arita Irime. Alyssa Paris Isaacson. Raja Karapanini. Jessica Renee Keaton. Hannah Ruth Kesler. Stella Christy Kaiser. Ann Kanapke. Taryn Michelle Konovich. Emily Elizabeth Kratz. Jessica Desiree LaChance.
Elise Marie LaRose. Brooke Laskin. Marcus Stefan Leaks. Elizabeth Leroy. Chinshua Lee. Jessica Anne Marie Lloyd. Leslie Ann Lucky. Aaron S. Mallory. Jenny Diane Mencino. Edwin Martinez. Kimberly Rumbaidize Mboyiwa. Lahula Manoolana McAllister. Paul Joseph Jude McClendon. Caitlin Marie McGovern. Demi McLaren. Natalia Katarzyna Madrake. Julia Cynthia Mayo. Mallory A. Meter. Lauren Morgan Thaler. Sarah Moskowitz Gordon. Anita Mukanovic. Catherine Mukai. Kaylee L. Mullins. Adam Edward Nelson. Amy Nichols. Melissa Susan Noe. Ji-yoon No. Kristen Marie Nyan. Marissa Christine O'Donnell. Richard Allen Olinger. Tessie Bronk Obeya. Sarah Ormland. Heidi Ortolaza Alvear. Peter M. Pascator. Rachel Pasternak. Lauren Renee Pavel. Emma Peck Block. Christina Marie Perez. Santina Bernice Paneros. Catherine J. Potvin. Laura Shibish. Catherine Estelle Pachowski. Kate Quinlivan. Ida Lucia Ramirez Bolivar. Luke Robbins. Ryan Rollinson. Naomi Rachel Rawson. Stephen Michael Rawson. Rebecca Joe Rosenberg. Laura Lane Rothenberg. Shadi Khalil Sabah. Risa Marie Sacamoni. Tony Elizabeth Sadler. Jessica Rose Schmitz. Molly Eileen Snyder. Claire Schutte. Jesse Self. Catherine Ruth Sedelnik. Rachel Elizabeth Simon Carone. Lauren Rebecca Singer. Shannon Skagen. Amra Skocic. Rebecca Sperling. Flory Stafford III. Erin Danielle Stanley. Meredith Stockton. Angela Liliana Suarez. Laura Jean Sudek. Jacqueline Tabbert. Shauna Taylor. Jacqueline Victoria Tan. David Javier Thompson. Julia Ann Tier. Christina Barbara Georginas. Emily Margaret Uhar. Ana Valianos. Joanna Patag Villacorta. Daniela Ava Vosti. Rachel Wall. Sally Catherine Wallstrom. Melody Kate Waring. Ashley G.S. Watts. Ann West. Forgive me. Amanda Rose Wilhite. Artisha Latrice Williams. Yuhong Young. Therese Marie Youngblood. Catherine Yusoff. Yudong Jun. To Dean Neil Guterman, faculty, staff, family, and guests, I present to you the 2015 candidates for the Masters of Arts degree of the University of Chicago School of Social Service Administration.
Congratulations, graduates, Master's Class of 2015. It's now my honor to announce the names of the students who have earned the Doctor of Philosophy degree. These students have trained for and made significant contributions to the academic discourse and scholarly research in the field of social work. Each of these students is being hooded by a faculty member of their dissertation committee. Jessica Hutchinson Darrow. Caitlin Elsesser. Vanessa Voorhees Klodnik. Alejandra Ruz Pilars. Florine Sickling. Fallon Wilson. Will you please join me in congratulating the doctoral class of 2015? Stay standing for a second, all of you. Before we close the ceremony, what I'd like to ask is all the graduates, if you would please stand and turn and face your guests so that your guests can collectively congratulate you and applaud you. And in return, let us new graduates and social work colleagues all take a moment to express our appreciation and gratitude for family and friends for the love and support they've provided for us to help us to reach this moment. Thank you all. Graduates, we hope that they'll continue to sustain you, that you'll continue to sustain them, and together that we will strengthen the fabric of our society. Congratulations, graduates 2015.